Alas. All right. O cursed with murder's guilt, how else wert thou the burden of her womb? And this delightful herb, whose tender green fledges the river's lip on which we lean, ah, lean upon it. Didn't tell me the answer. Still not working right. Guess is blank. Print answer. Blank prints answer. Oh, but if it's not blank, I still need to put this back. Look at that. From Alfred Tennyson, although in perfect sincerity, I regard him as the noblest poet that ever lived. I have left blank time to look at only a very brief specimen. I think that is Poe literary criticism. What is this? Oh, misery. Why not? Why are you so miserable, Wordsworth? Are you picking that up from the mic or the machine? Is the music playing? Guess the music is playing. All right. I was investigating Wordsworth's Misery. And get rid of Akhmatova. The poem. Guess it's called The Thorn. There was a thorn. It looks so old. In truth, you'd find it hard to say how it could ever have been young. It looks so old and gray. Not higher than a 2 years child, it stands erect, this aged thorn. No leaves it has, no prickly points. It is a mass of knotted joints, a wretched thing, forlorn. It stands erect, and like a stone, with lichens it is overgrown. Like rock or stone it is overgrown, with lichens to the very top, and hung with heavy tufts of moss, a melancholy crop. Up from the earth these mosses creep, and this poor thorn they clasp it round, so close you'd say that they are bent, with plain and manifest intent, to drag it to the ground. And all have joined in one endeavor. Off the stormy winter gale cuts like a scythe, while through the clouds it sweeps from vale to vale. Not 5 yards from the mountain path, this thorn you on your left espy, and to the left 3 yards beyond, you see a little muddy pond of water, never dry, though but of compass small, and bare to thirsty suns and parching air. And close beside this aged thorn, there is a fresh and lovely beauteous heap, a hill of moss, just 1/2 foot in height. All lovely colors there you see, all colors that were ever seen. And mossy network too is there, as if by hand of lady fair, the work had woven been. Is like an infant's grave in size, as like can be. But never, never anywhere, an infant's grave was half so fair. Now this wood you see, this aged thorn, this pond, and beauteous hill of moss, you must take care and choose your time, the mountain when to cross. For off there sits between the heaps, so like an infant's grave in size, and that same pond of which I spoke, a woman in a scarlet cloak, and to herself she cries, "O misery, O misery, O woe is me, O misery." Well, there's the answer to the question. A woman weeping behind an infant's grave. Beside a thorn tree, I think. Now wherefore thus by day and night, in rain, in tempest and in snow, thus to the dreary mountain top does this poor woman go? And why sits she beside the thorn, when the blue daylight's in the sky, or when the whirlwind's on the hill, or frosty air is keen and still? And wherefore does she cry? Oh, wherefore, wherefore, tell me why, does she repeat that doleful cry? I cannot tell, I wish I could, for the true reason no one knows. But would you gladly view the spot to which she goes? The hillock, like an infant's grave, the pond and thorn, so old and gray, pass by her door, 'tis seldom shut. And if you see her in her hut, then to the spot away. I never heard of such as dare approach the spot when she is there. But wherefore to the mountain top can this unhappy woman go, whatever stars in the skies, whatever wind may blow? Full 20 years are past and gone since she, her name is Martha Ray, gave with a maiden's true goodwill her company to Stephen Hill. And she was blithe and gay, while friends and kindred all approved of him whom tenderly she loved. And they had fixed the wedding day, the morning that must wed them both, but Stephen to another maid had sworn another oath. And with this other maid to church, unthinking Stephen went. Poor Martha on that woeful day, a pang of pitiless dismay into her soul was sent. A fire was kindled in her breast, which might not burn itself to rest. They say full 6 months after this, while yet the summer leaves were green, she to the mountain top would go, and there was often seen. What could she seek, or wish to hide? Her state to any eye was plain. She was with child, and she was mad, yet often was she sober sad from her exceeding pain. O guilty father, would that death had saved him from that breach of faith. She was cuckolded. This is gonna get scary. Sad case for such a brain to hold communion with a stirring child. Sad case, as you may think, for one who had a brain so wild. Last Christmas Eve we talked of this, and gray-haired Wilfred of the Glen held that the unborn infant wrought about his mother's heart and brought her senses back again. And when at last her time drew near, her looks were calm, her senses clear, More know I not, I wish I did, and it should all be told to you, for what became of this poor child, no mortal ever knew. Nay, if a child to her was born, no earthly tongue could ever tell, and if 'twas born alive or dead, far less could this with proof be said. But some remember well that Martha Ray about this time would up the mountain often climb. And all that winter when at night the wind blew from the mountain peak, 'twas worth your while, though in the dark, the churchyard path to seek. For many a time and oft were heard cries coming from the mountain head. Some plainly living voices were, and others, I've heard many swear, were voices of the dead. I cannot think whate'er they say they had to do with Martha Ray. But that she goes to this old thorn, the thorn which I described to you, and there sits in a scarlet cloak, I will be sworn is true. For one day with my telescope to view the ocean wide and bright, when to this country first I came, ere to this country, ere I had heard Martha's name, I climbed the mountain's height, a storm came on, and I could see no object higher than my knee. 'Twas mist and rain, the storm and rain, no screen, no fence could I discover, and then the wind, in sooth it was, a wind full 10 times over. I looked around, I thought I saw a jutting crag, and off I ran, head foremost through the driving rain, the shelter of the crag to gain. And, as I am a man, instead of jutting crag, I found a woman seated on the ground. I did not speak, I saw her face, it was enough for me. I turned about and heard her cry, "Oh misery, oh misery." And there she sits until the moon through half the clear blue sky will go. And when the little breezes make the waters of the pond to shake, as all the country know, she shudders, and you hear her cry as the little pond to stir. I cannot tell, but some will say she hanged her baby on the tree. Some say she drowned it in the pond, which is a little step beyond. But all and each agree the little babe was buried there beneath that hill of moss so fair. I've heard the moss is spotted red with drops of that poor infant's blood, but kill a newborn infant thus, I do not think she could. Some say, if to the pond you go and fix on it a steady view, the shadow of a babe you trace, a baby and a baby's face, and that it looks at you. Whene'er you look at it, 'tis plain the baby looks at you again. And some had sworn an oath that she should be to public justice brought, and for the little infant's bones with spades they would have sought. But instantly the hill of moss before their eyes began to stir, and, for full 50 yards around, the grass, it shook upon the ground. Yet all do still aver, the little babe lies buried there, beneath that hill of moss so fair. I cannot tell how this may be, but plain it is the thorn is bound with heavy tufts of moss that strive to drag it to the ground. And this I know full many a time when she was on the mountain high, by day and in the silent night, when all the stars shone clear and bright, that I have heard her cry, "Oh misery, oh misery, oh woe is me, oh misery." Room? Why? Why room? This is a nice poem. That miscellany will need more attention. That's where I found a great Amy Lowell poem. Oh, I think that's the room. Is that the room? It is. Okay. So, what room, I ask? The swans shall tell us. The swans float and float along the moat, around the bishop's garden, and the white clouds push across a blue sky with edges that seem to draw in and harden. Two slim men of white bronze beat each with a hammer on the end of a rod the hours of God. Striking a bell, they do it well, and the echoes jump and tinkle and swell in the cathedral's carved stone polygons. The swans float about the moat, and another swan sits still in the air above the old inn. He gazes into the street and swims the cold and heat. He has always been there. At least so say the cobbles in the garden. They listen to the beat of the hammered bell and think of the feet which beat upon their tops, and what they think they do not tell. And the swans who float up and down the moat gobble the bread the bishop feeds them. The slim bronze men beat the hour again, but only the gargoyles up in the hard blue air heed them. When the bishop says a prayer and the choir sing Amen, the hammers break in on them there. Clang, clang, beware, beware. The carved swan looks down at the passing men, and the cobbles wink. An hour has gone again. But the people kneeling before the bishop's chair forget the passing over the cobbles in the square. An hour of day and an hour of night, and the clouds float away in a red splashed light. The sun, quotha, or white, white, smoke with fire all night. An old roof crashing on a bishop's tomb, swarms of men with a thirst for room, and the footsteps blur to a shower, shower, shower of men passing, passing, every hour, with arms of power and legs of power and power in their strong, hard minds. No need then for the slim bronze men who beat God's hours, prime, tierce, none. Who wants to hear? No one. We will melt them and mold them and make them a stem for a banner gorged with blood, for a blue-mouthed torch. So the men rush like clouds, they strike their iron edges on the bishop's chair and fling down the lanterns by the tower stair. They rip the bishop out of his tomb and break the mitre off of his head. See, they say, and the clockmen mark the hours as they go. But slow, slow. The swans float in the bishop's moat, and the inn swan sits on and on, staring before him with cold glass eyes. Boom, room, room. He is old and kind and deaf and blind, and very, very pleased with his charming moat and the swans which float. So, room wasn't a room at all. It was, I guess, an echo of a bell sound. Who graced us with the swans? 24 haiku. Amy Lowell again. Wow. I kind of want to see Amy Lowell. This is the second time she's come up here. Let's take a look at her. An American poet of the Imagist school. Posthumously won the Pulitzer in 1926. Looks rather masculine in that painting there, that photograph. Born into the Brookline's Lowell family. Her father was the Harvard president. Oh, I see. She's kind of a grandma. Let's grab all of Amy Lowell. I think she does deserve to be here. Ooh, and an Imagists anthology. What we don't have... a complete edition, so I'm gonna have to cobble it together myself, which and meanwhile just drone. Get rid of all these ugly prefaces. Guess I could show you what I'm doing. It's not really worth it. I guess while I'm doing something boring like this, I could... Yeah, how about I just have in another tab? Sweet, okay. In another tab, I will have the other automated. Well, that one's not very interesting, is it? Oh well, at least it's moving. That might get people's attention. I am going to get the Lowell poems. Probably take me about 2 minutes. And we'll have Imagists. That'll be nice. No, that doesn't fit. Let me fix that before the next one comes up. No. Uh-oh, hurry. There we go. Just have to make this smaller. Okay, give us something worthwhile, Oracle Machine. Nice to just do poetry. I'll selectively do history in the future, but mixing them is so jarring. I blank time be drunk and sleeps. He is so still and moves not. I doubt time be drunk, I say. And I'll spell doubt with an E. Oh, sweet. Just figured out a way to double my productivity. Oh, that really does double my productivity. I thought it was overestimating before, but nope. Was that the Imagist anthology or Lowell? I guess I can see something. Nope, that was Lowell. Think. Think. Think time be drunk and sleeps. He is so still and moves not. That's a funny play. I really would like to. I'm glad that that keeps coming up, so that I can acquaint myself. Boom after boom, and the golf hut shaking, and the blank wild with fright. Oh, Yedidia. Hello. Guess I have to, well, yeah, I will still play. I will still play. And the blank and the horses, I say. Wild with fright. I'm actually gathering Amy Lowell poems in the background. I'll be finished shortly. Because I just came up, twice I came up with really interesting poems of hers. And luckily she is archived at gutenberg.org. Oh look, Amy Lowell did English versions, and the Jackdaws. What does a jackdaw look like? I might have to take a little break here to illuminate my error. The Western Jackdaw. This is a jackdaw. That is what ran in fright with the boom. Another strikeout. I guess for strikeouts, I could just go over here and then... Oh, I got that answer already. No single parts, blank surprise. All comes united to the admiring eyes. No monstrous height or breadth or length appear. The whole at once is bold and regular. No single parts. For some reason I want to say command. But I'm just gonna leave that open while I finish this. So I'll throw her translations, even though she did it with Florence Aisco. I guess I could make it into a separate book, why not? Okay, so Amy Lowell is now entering the Pantheon. Spectacular. And I will add her Fur Flower Tablets. Poems from the Chinese. And why don't we just dive right into that directly? It's fitting, I have my Gu Zhen playing. wow, she has some... Wow, so there's a book of hers called Studies in Contemporary Literature. 6 French poets, which I should hunt down. In fact, since I'm already off on a total tangent, 1,000,000 miles an hour, why don't I? So let's see if I can find it. And look for Amy Lowell, French. Lecture. I don't want to get lost in here too badly, but well, she's in the 1905 Social Register. She was indeed a Brahmin of the highest order. I want Lowell as the author. I should have done an advanced search. I'm gonna grab it, and then I will thwart my attempt to go directly to her book on Chinese poetry, and instead get her book on French poetry instead. I really like literary criticism. What can I say? Oh my gosh, everyone is here. They're all so silent, though. Greetings, my wondrous companions. Maybe, like, no one can hear me, and it's not even streaming, which is what I was actually doing for a half hour. I hadn't even hit play. So maybe this is just a fantasy of mine. But no, I don't believe it is. I think my dreams have come true again. That's so big. Make it manageable. Don't. Why, hello. Okay, so I won't dilly-dally with the French poets short of downloading them, and I'll deal with extracting her analysis at a later date. But I will save her Chinese poetry book, and we can dive into this work singularly and not get too distracted by Aristotle and other provocateurs. How are you doing this evening, Yedidia? K. K is a... Have you read Kafka, Yedidia? Every time I see the letter K now, I think of Kafka. I actually picked up from a library overstock book sale Kafka's Letters to Felicia. which was his lover and wife. Oh, really? Kafka's really great. It's real. I mean, it's somewhat disturbing, but his prose is so austere. It's so funny. I was reading The Castle. It's a dark funny, but oh my gosh, it is funny. His characters are really quite mad. And it's just, but he's uncompromising, utterly, in indicating at all that there's any aesthetic plan guiding the work. It's beautiful. Do I even have Kafka in here? I've had Kafka before. I think I just selected some poetry and put it in here, and then maybe what I'll do, I just keep compounding things on every one of my projects. I just never get, like, I can't complete a single task without adding more tasks to it, which is fun, but it's a little bit scary. So I'm gonna look for Kafka and add Amy Lowell, and then we'll do a Kafka Amy Lowell duet. Why does this not? Why won't you click and? Oh my God, no. What? What the hell? Oh. I see. Okay, Amy Lowell. I'm so much happier now that everyone's here. I was not unhappy before, but I'm much happier now. Gives me that inspiration. Okay, saving her French poets. 6 French poets. Kafka. I'll do the trial. Of course, I can't find it, so I don't know what good that did. I really should have it playing in the background, shouldn't I? But it broke and... Alright. Now... Okay, well, see what this one is. So I guessed... What did I guess? I guessed command. And this one was unequally. Alright, fine. But now, okay. So here we are with just Amy Lowell and Kafka. So actually, you could actually do a whole different game on guess the author and just like shoot them side by side, but today I'm actually avoiding games. I feel like I gamed myself into exhaustion. So I'm actually searching out questions and reading more than gaming. I mount blank. I'm gonna keep going till I get an interesting one. The study of Chinese is so difficult that it is a life work in itself. So is the study of blank. I like this one. I'm gonna say poetry and leave it up there for a sec. This has no timer either. So I like that too. Then I'm not artificially driven. There are two competing strands in my inspiration in this project. One of them seems artificial, the randomness, but I actually want to remove the randomness through omniscience is the inspiration. So having a timer is arbitrary and therefore no good. So I guess poetry, and I got it. Woohoo! That makes me feel better. Look at that. I think I'm going to add this as a quote, including my correct answer to my page. And then in the meantime, I'll get the next one up. Oh, look at that knock. A sinologue has no time to learn how to write poetry. A poet has no time to learn how to read Chinese. Since neither of us pretended to any knowledge of the other's craft, our association has been a continually augmenting pleasure. Oh, this is her talking about the work. Maybe I should make preface and poetry. Okay, this is Kafka. So I'll play. I'm playing the game not to play the game, but I'm playing the game to get the quote to pursue. And then I'm not gonna leave any quotes in the lurch, which I did to so many before. Alright, and that doesn't help. I'll go, he said as he took his leave of the manufacturer at the door. Or, as I'm very busy at blank, I'll write to him. Perhaps he would like to come to me in my office sometime. I'm very busy at paperwork. Maybe I will throw this into the machine now that we're doing it. At present, oh, it's time. Okay. Yeah, I like. Okay, so then partly unstructured, in that it will have the machine, but Kay blank and twisted his hand round a little in her soft hands. It's actually nice to do it with Kafka. His writing is so simple. Ooh, what if I get two of them going at once? And then I can satisfy all passions. It was smiled. I'll show it in a second. Oh, maybe I'll get it. No, I won't get it. Okay, so I'll actually do it with this one for the trial, since it'll be. I think it'll be good, actually. Why did Kay smile? That's my question. So Let us go over here to the trial. And okay, smiled. How many people smile in the trial? Does it tell me how many? It doesn't. Or maybe it does and I don't see it. It's not telling me. Okay. She smiled. There's someone smiling at Kay. Kay smiled and said, was that what it was? You can look back here. Oh no, we can't. Kay smiled and twisted his hand round a little in her soft hands. So, nope, that's not it. Oh, found it. Okay, so here we are in this big wall of text, which is the thickest wall I've ever brought into this machine. You know, I could make this more visible, perhaps, by going to the Gutenberg version. Let me check it out. Spare us the decryption. Kafka's trial. Oh, this doesn't help at all. It's a giant block in the original. Oh well. Well, I'll just take this part out and see if I can figure it out. So who's talking? Okay, the woman asked, "Do you want to make things a bit better here?" The woman asked slowly, watching him as if she were saying something that could be as dangerous for Kay as herself. "That's what I thought when I heard you speak. I really liked what you said. Mind you, I only heard part of it. I missed the beginning of it, and at the end I was lying on the floor with a student. It's so horrible here," she said after a pause, and took hold of Kay's hand. I think this is the part where he goes and to basically find out what he's been accused of, and then he gets in this strange erotic bureaucratic encounter with this receptionist bureaucrat, and so she's, I think, reporting to him like this kind of encounter she had that was with this aggressive student, and so it's almost as if Kay is sympathizing with her and gaining her trust, but he's there because he's been arrested and he doesn't know why. It's so weird. It's really it's funny. Okay, so all right, well, so the answer to my question of why he smiled was because exactly that, the strange bureaucratic liaison would be the right word, took hold of Kay's hand. That's the answer. "It's really not my job to make things better here, as you put it," he said. And if you said that to the examining judge, he would laugh at you or punish you for it. I really would not have become involved in this matter if I could have helped it, and I would have lost no sleep worrying about how this court needs to be better. But because I'm told that I have been arrested and am under arrest, it forces me to take some action and to do so for my own sake. However, if I can be of some service to you in the process, I will, of course, be glad to do so, and I will be glad to do so not only for the sake of charity, but also because you can be of some help to me. How could I help you then? Said the woman. You could, for example, show me the books on the table there. Yes, certainly, the woman cried, and pulled Kay along behind her as she rushed to them. The books were old and well worn. The cover of one of them had nearly broken through in its middle, and it was held together with a few threads. Everything is so dirty here, said Kay, shaking his head, and before he could pick the books up, the woman wiped some of the dust off with her apron. Kay took hold of the book that lay on top and threw it open. An indecent picture appeared. A man and a woman sat naked on a sofa. The base intent of whoever drew it was easy to see, but he had been so grossly lacking in skill that all that anyone could really make out were the man and the woman who dominated the picture with their bodies, sitting in overly upright postures that created a false perspective and made it difficult for them to approach each other. Kay didn't thumb through that book anymore, but just threw open the next one at its title page. It was a novel with the title, What Greta Suffered from Her Husband Hans. So this is the sort of law book they study here, said Kay. This is the sort of person sitting in judgment over me. I can help you, said the woman. What would you like me to do? You know, frankly, and don't take offense at this, I actually feel that the chatters on Twitch are kind of like this woman. They're like, you want, it's, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're all human beings, but you can't ever really be sure, and you're kind of in this bureaucratic, technocratic cage. So it's actually, I think, kind of funny. Could you really do that without placing yourself in danger? You did say earlier on that your husband is wholly dependent on his superiors. Now, this is so weird. Like, Kafka just... It's so strange, these emotional... kind of... Yeah, kind of... sensual embarrassments that form the currency of his whole work. We're gonna get more of it. I still want to help you, said the woman. Come over here. We've got to talk about it. Don't say any more about what danger I'm in. I only fear where I want to fear it. Come over here, into Kay's face. People say I've got nice eyes too, but yours are much nicer. It was the first thing I noticed when you first came here. That's even why I came in here, into the assembly room afterwards. I'd never normally do that. I'm not really even allowed to. Yeah, so this is where she's like transgressing the boundaries of her position, which is kind of the inverse of him trying to resist this strange transgression on his life by this anonymous bureaucracy. So that's what all this is about, thought Kay. She's offering herself to me. She's as degenerate as... With that, Kay stood up in silence, as if he had spoken his thoughts out loud and thus explained his action to the woman. I don't think you can be of any assistance to me, he said. To be of any real assistance, you would need to be in contact with high officials. But I'm sure you only know the lower employees, and there are crowds of them milling about here. I'm sure you're very familiar with them and could achieve a great deal through them. I've no doubt about that, but the most that could be done through them would have no bearing at all on the final outcome of the trial. You, on the other hand, would lose some of your friends as a result, and I have no wish of that. Carry on with these people in the same way as you have been, as it does seem to me to be something you cannot do without. I have no regrets in saying this. as in return for your compliment to me, I also find you rather attractive. Especially when you look at me as sadly as you are now, although you really have no reason to do so. You belong to the people I have to combat, and you're very comfortable among them. You're even in love with the student. Or if you don't love him, at least you do at least prefer him to your husband. It's easy to see that from what you've been saying. No, she shouted, remaining sitting where she was and grasped Kay's hand, which he failed to pull away fast enough. You can't go away now. You can't go away now when you've misjudged me like that. Are you really capable of going away now? Am I really so worthless that you won't even do me the favor of staying a little bit longer? Spaceman? I do, at least I do. Now you misunderstand me, said Kay, sitting back down. If it's really important to you for me to stay here, then I'll be glad to do so. I have plenty of time. I came here thinking there would be a trial taking place. All I meant with that I said just now was to ask you not to do anything on behalf in the proceedings against me. But even that is nothing for you to worry about when you consider that there's nothing hanging on the outcome of this trial, and that whatever the verdict, I will just laugh at it. And that's even presupposing it ever even reaches any conclusion, which I very much doubt. I think it's much more likely that the court officials will be too lazy, too forgetful, and even too fearful to ever continue with these proceedings, and they will soon be abandoned if they haven't been abandoned already. It's even possible that they will pretend to be carrying on with the trial in the hope of receiving a large bribe, although I can tell you now that they will be quite in vain, as I pay bribes to no one. This is Kafka's The Trial. Perhaps one favor you could do me would be to tell the examining judge, or anyone else who likes to spread important news, that I will never be induced to pay any sort of bribe through any stratagem of theirs, and I'm sure that they have many stratagems at their proposal. This is another technique of Kafka where, or technique, aspect of this aesthetic dystopia, where like the utterly vanquished, weak character who's totally enthralled to this machine of opacity makes all these empty gestures of moral righteousness. It's so funny. There is no prospect of that, you can tell them quite openly, and what's more, I expect they have already noticed themselves, or even if they haven't, this affair is really not so important to me as they think. Those gentlemen would only save some work for themselves, or at least some unpleasantness for me, which, however, I am glad to endure if I know that each piece of unpleasantness for me is a blow against them. That's another one. He's always trying to take revenge on them with these petty gestures. It's so funny. Oh my god. And I will make quite sure it is a blow against them. Do you actually know the judge? Actually reminds me of one time I was scrolling through here, and there's a woman here who had a talk show, and she has, you know, maybe like a few hundred followers, and she's sitting here like ranting at Twitch for changing their policy, and just like she's like, I don't care that I'm breaking the Twitch rules. I'm just gonna say what I mean. And like, you know, there's little like chat things. People are like, yeah, go, you go. You know, I mean, a lot of them are just ridiculing her, but Twitch has recreated the Kafka aesthetic en masse and automated. Course I do, said the woman. He was the first one I thought of when I offered to help you. Okay, enough of Kafka. What are you up tonight, spaceman? I'll show you how this place really works. Ah, yes. Good you've accomplished that. So, okay. So I actually... Okay, now that we did Kafka, I think we should just go right to poetry. Because that's probably enough Kafka for any day. Okay. So, how can I blanket thinking of spring in the women's apartments? So I'm going to say tolerate. Everyone register your guesses if you care to. I think this is maybe the Chinese poem. It might not be. All right. You say beat, I will put beat into the machine. The answer is accomplish. Okay. So, and how am I gonna, okay, I'm gonna move these over here so they don't get too out of control and put them under here. So right now what we do is we ask a question about the context where this came from. I think this is a poem, although who knows, maybe it's Kafka. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. The very fact that you had the courage to guess and that you actually use the context puts you head and shoulders above 98% of the population. So I can't wait actually to see your brilliant other guesses. You do have some good competition in here. Yedidia is here. I saw Chrysanther went earlier. They're both pros, so it will be tough, but what I do now is I ask a question about the context here. So how can I accomplish it? I will say, what? Thinking of spring in the women's apartments. Okay, I'm actually going to ask, why would pondering the women's apartments make it harder to accomplish? Okay, and now we're gonna go find out where this came from. And so that looks like the end of a poem there. And so we're gonna find out what that poem is. Horse. So now what I'll do is I am going to read the poem and try to listen to the poem with an eye towards answering the question. The sorrel horse with the black tail gallops, and neighs, lifting, curving his gray jade hoofs. He shies from the flowing water, unwilling to cross, as though he feared the mud for his embroidered saddle hath. The snow is white on the far frontier hills. The clouds are yellow over the misty frontier sea. I strike with my leather whip. Ooh, very beautiful. So, I will answer the question, in here actually. So again, this was the question. And so I would say, he fears that remembering the good times in good seasons in leisure amongst the women he loved will buy horse. Done. So that is what we do here at Freestyle Scholars. Now I'm actually going to put this back in here. And then we'll go on to the next blank and find out where it came from. Wow, that really works very nicely with succinct poems. Do you understand the process, Spaceman? Oops. Here's our next one. Cool. But already the bright hills hold half of the sun, blank their lips. The silver-white arrow tablet above the gold-colored brass jar. The sun mounts in the east. What hope for the revels now? I'm gonna go mundane here and just guess around. And I'm gonna try and make this bigger. No, they don't. They don't. It's always exactly the same. There is some minimum number of letters. I don't recall what I set it at right now, but it's at least 5, I'm pretty sure. So I'll go on as soon as you guess. I have the other one, which, while I'm waiting for your guess, I'll fire up here, where it just runs automatically, all the time. And depending upon how we roll, you can do either. Against. Excellent guess, my friend. Excellent guess. Between. We both had really good guesses. And when I do keep score, I would give both of us a meaning point, but not a perfection point. Okay. Yeah. So, now... question about the context. What hope for the revels now? I'm gonna say... well, okay. Yeah, I'll say what revels. What revels. And... this thing has a knack for getting the last line of poems. How many revels are in this anthology? Here's a different revel. Oh look, the revels are referred to, so we might get it. So this is from Li Tai Po also, and his Song for the Hour When the Crows Roost. This is the hour when the crows come to roost on the Kusu terrace. In his palace, the king of Wu is drinking with Shi. Songs of Wu, posturings of Chu dances, and yet the revels are not finished. But already the bright hills hold half of the sun between their lips. The silver-white arrow tablet above the gold-colored brass jar of the water clock marks the dripping of much water. And slowly the sun mounts in the east. What hope for the revels now? Fear that the revels won't happen. But the revels are but I'm gonna pretend that doesn't exist, and just say the revels of King Wu drinking with Shi are endangered. And I'll walk away happy. Bam. Done. Okay, I'm getting rid of Kafka out of here because I'm not having any more Kafka tonight. Okay. Yep, that was Kafka. Okay. Her resentment is that of the woman of the Siang River. Her blank, that of the concubine of the king of Chu. Now here's a real challenge for you. None of those prepositions. So when you think of the concubine of the king of Chu, how would you compare that to the woman of the Siang River, Spaceman? Bosom. That is a great guess. I'm gonna say her rage. Oh, and it was her silence. Okay, now question about the context. Feel free to shoot one out if you can think of one. Yeah, that was a good guess though. So why is she resentful? What's she pissed off about? That's what I'll ask. What's she pissed off about? Okay, and now we'll jump back to the poem, find out where we were. So this was another Li Tai Po poem. I don't know, maybe this is all Li Tai Po poems. The Looking for Husband Rock. In the attitude and with the manner of the woman of old, full of grief, she stands in the glorious morning light. The dew is like the tears of today. The mosses like the garments of years ago, of the concubine of the king of Chu. Still and solitary in the sweet-scented mist, as if waiting for her husband's return. Wow. I was just reading a poem earlier. So, what's she so pissed off about? So her resentment is that of the woman of the Siang River. How do we... Glorious morning light. The dew is like the tears of today. The mosses, like the garments of years ago. As if waiting for her husband's return. I'm going to say she's pissed off because her husband has been away for too long. Next. Yeah, yeah. I agree. I'm gonna add that. And likely he is playing around with other women. She is at Looking for Husband Rock, so things have really taken a turn for the worse. Right on, man. Thanks for giving the answer. I think you might have been the... No. A couple other people have given answers. Usually mustering an answer from the onlookers is an ask. It's not running around shooting people with a machine gun. But, you know, so I appreciate your participation very much. Okay, let's get a real one here. Ooh, look at this. Oh, ooh, this one is beautiful. Look at this. We have a double blank. And that is the same word. That double blank. So the blank wind is fresh and clear. The blank moon is bright. This is the first time I've had like a good double blank. This is about as good a one as you could ask for. So let's see here. What would it be? What can describe the wind and the moon? He already used the word clear. I was actually thinking you know what I say? I say autumn. All right. Autumn open. Yedidia. Oh, Graysol. Graysol, you gotta spacious. You could make I don't think that'll work. Maybe it will. It's likely that we're both wrong, but I'm rooting for you. Okay, we're gonna say open. Autumn. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess I've been reading a lot of Chinese poetry, so I guess I had a sense it was the. Wow, I'm pretty proud of that one. That one was not likely. You know, an autumn wind. Yeah, I guess it's funny. It is like right now we actually are in the autumn wind and autumn bright. Okay, well, what do I ask about this? Okay, what's happening under the moon? Yeah, they do. Okay, yeah, just watch. We're gonna search through for the word autumn, and it's gonna be all of them. I'll come back. Autumn noises, autumn gale, autumn sky, autumn water, autumn comes, autumn water, early autumn at the pool, autumn season, autumn mist. Oh, here's a whole poem called Autumn. Autumn lamps, autumn bright as a single adjective. Autumnal equinox, clear autumn, autumn annals, autumn moonlight, autumn fan, autumn river song. Okay, will I ever get back to where we were? Autumn frosts, autumn clouds. A lot of autumn. I think we're getting back there. And we happen to get the two autumns right next to each other. Double. Not only that, the only reason this would even happen is if the word autumn was used in the same sentence twice, which this one was. Quite a special and rare occurrence. So, the autumn wind is fresh and clear. The autumn moon is bright. Fallen leaves whirl together and scatter. The jackdaws, who have gone to roost, are startled again. We are thinking of each other, but when shall we see each other? Now, tonight, I suffer because of my passion. What's happening under the moon? I asked. Fallen leaves, whirl, passions, royal, Jackdaws fly. Is it fog, or was it any of those autumn adjectives like autumn mist? Oh, you know what? I'll change the color of the text. That is a better idea. White on white bed is not the best font color. We'll make it red, like autumn red. Is it gonna work? Let's see. I might have to reboot this thing. Maybe I just reset it. Autumn. Autumn. That's not red. Or just launch it and use window capture. I don't want to do that. That leaves that ugly thing. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Huh, it's not working at all. Oh well, why fix what's not broken? He is going to the Tung Ting Lake. My friend, whom I have blank so many years. I say mist. This is a Tai Ta Mien poem. I like your style, Spaceman. Oh! Well done, my friend. Well done. So, can you come up with a question to ask the poem that we'll then go read on the basis of this sentence? While you're doing that, I'm gonna go find it in the background. Okay, cool, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna guess, let's see. He is going to Tung Ting Lake. He's probably talking about his friend. My friend whom I have loved so many years. One goes on a journey. Okay, how about this? When will you see your beloved friend again? So that's our question. And here's our poem. He is going to the Tongting Lake, my friend whom I have loved so many years. The spring wind startles the willows, and they break into pale leaf. I go with my friend as far as the riverbank. He is gone, and my mind is filled and overflowing with the things I did not say. Again, the white water flower is ripe for plucking. The green pointed swords of the iris splinter the brown earth. To the south of the river are many sweet olive trees. I gather branches of them to give my friend on his return. When will you see your beloved friend again, I ask? When I see him, I will give my beloved friend these sweet olive branches. It's so pretty, I'd like to kind of leave it up. But the show must go on. Yeah. I somehow I doubt olive branches had that meaning in China. And they were already pretty chill. The house of the lonely scholar is in the blank lane. All right. We're both wrong. Winding. The winding lane. Why is the poor scholar so lonely? The house of the lonely scholar is in the winding lane. The great scholar's gate is very high. The garden pool lies and shines like the magic gall mirror. Groves of trees throw up flowers with wide open faces. The leaf-colored water draws the spring sun. Sitting in the green, covered passageway, watching the strange, red clouds of evening, listening to the lovely music of flageolet and strings, the Golden Valley is not much to boast of. So why is the poor scholar so lonely? He is lonely because he hides behind his high gate. Although the spring time surpasses the Golden Valley, which is kind of how I took the last line. I feel like the Golden Valley is some mythical beauty that is surpassed by the current scene. Actually shrink myself and fit all these things on here. Here we go. Are you lonely up there in space, spaceman? Don't know if this is a poem. Let me check. Well, then I'll let it answer. Don't know. I read a cool Quora post today about flying up to 60,000 feet and what it takes to get up there. All about me, sharp peaks jag upward, but through my window and beyond is the blank, broad brightness of the setting sun. Feeling grandiloquent. Ha! Oh. I don't want to disappoint you, but I think that was an ambitious, but a good probabilistic presumption. So we will say autumn, smooth, smooth. The smooth, broad brightness of the setting sun. Smooth flowing, smooth cut, smooth broad brightness. From the straw hut among the 7 peaks. From the high pavilion on the great rock, I look down at the green river. There is the sail of a returning boat. The birds are flying in pairs. The faint snuff color of trees closes the horizon. All about me, sharp peaks jag upward, but through my window and beyond is the smooth, broad brightness of the setting sun. Clouds brush the rocky ledge. In the dark green shadow left by the sunken sun, a jade fountain flies, and a little stream, thin as the fine thread spun by sad women in prison chambers, slides through the grasses and whirls suddenly upon itself, avoiding the sharp edges of the iris leaves. Few people pass here. Only the hermits of the hills come in companies to gather the imperial fern. Forgot to ask a question, but I guess that's good. It's called aesthetic absorption in the smooth, broad brightness. My inconsiderable body knows the blank of serving sun and moon. We have lost that relationship to sun and moon. The cast-off palace woman of Chin and the dragon robes. At Wei Yang dwells the Son of Heaven. The all-unworthy one attends beside the dragon-broidered robes. I ponder his regard, not mine the love enjoyed by those within the purple palace. And yet, I have attained to brightening the bed of yellow gold. If flood should come, I also would not leave. A bear might come, and still I could protect. My inconsiderable body knows the honor of serving sun and moon. I flicker with a little glow of light of fireflies. I beg my lord to pluck the trifling mustard plant and melon flower and not reject them for their hidden roots. Keep forgetting the questions. The questions are very helpful for me to pin my mind down to the specific. Otherwise, I just get lost in sound and color. I sing. The moon walks forward rhythmically. I dance, and my shadow shatters and becomes yeah, right. Exactly. Well, let's not forget on this one. We're really pawing our way through the maelstrom. This one. It's a 3,000-foot wall. Ooh. What do I answer here? My shadow shatters and becomes okay. Let's not forget the question here. Well, why? What confused your shadow? I ask. Drinking alone in the moonlight. Whoops. I lost it. A pot of wine among flowers. I alone, drinking, without a companion. I lift the cup and invite the bright moon. My shadow, opposite certainly, makes us three. But the moon cannot drink, and my shadow follows the motions of my body in vain. For the briefest time are the moon and my shadow my companions. Oh, be joyful. One must make the most of spring. I sing. The moon walks forward rhythmically. I dance, and my shadow shatters and becomes confused. In my waking moments, we are happily blended. When I'm drunk, we are divided from one another and scattered. For a long time I shall be obliged to wander without intention, but we will keep our appointment by the far-off, cloudy river. If heaven does not love wine, there would be no wine star in heaven. If earth did not love wine, there should be no wine springs on earth. Why then be ashamed before heaven to love wine? I have heard that clear wine is like the sages. Again, it is said that thick wine is like the virtuous worthies. Wherefore it appears that we have swallowed both sage and worthies. Why should we strive to be gods and immortals? 3 cups, and one can perfectly understand the great Tao. A gallon, and one is in accord with all nature. Only those in the midst of it can fully comprehend the joys of wine. I do not proclaim them to be sober. Yeah, he likes his pot, his vessel. Okay. So, what confused your shadow? Three cups. That's my answer. She, of who I am thinking, oh, is at the shore of the blank river, separated by the clouds and the rainbow. Without these mists, I could surely see. I got this one. No problem. Oh, yeah, you guessed that. I guessed this. Oh, of course, Xiang. Where else do clouds and rainbow part? How does she make you purr? Whoa. The terraced road of the two-edged sword mountains. Looking south and straight from Xianyang for 5,000 li. One could see, among the full blowing clouds, the rocky sharpness of peaks. Were it not for the horizontal line of the two-edged sword mountains cutting across the view. They are flat against the green sky and open in the middle to let the sky through. On their heights, the wind whistles awesomely in the pines. It booms in great long gusts. It clashes like the strings of a jade stone psaltery. It shouts on the clearness of a gale. In the Serpent River country, the gibbons. Oh, all the gibbons together moan and grieve. Beside the road, torrents flung from a great height rush down the gully. They toss stones and spray over the road. They run rapidly. They whirl. They startle with the noise of thunder. I bid goodbye to my devoted friend. Oh, now he leaves me. When will he come again? Oh, when will he return to me? I hope for my dear friend the utmost peace. My voice is heavy. I sigh and draw my breath haltingly. I look at the green surface of the water flowing to the east. I grieve that the white sun hides in the west. The wild goose has taken the place of the swallow. Oh, I hear the pattering, falling noises of autumn. Dark are the rain clouds. The color of the town of Chin is dark. When the moon glistens on the road of the two-edged sword, oh, I and you, even though in different provinces, may drink our wine opposite each other and listening to the talking of our hearts. Yeah, so I was false to presume that only in one poem would the oh character be translated, but yeah, I think I actually found the wrong poem. So, we're gonna have a little chance to actually compare uses of oh once I find our actual poem. There we are. So remember, the question was, how does she make you purr? Or I could just call it a day and get a new word. What do you say, Spaceman? Should I read the poem to answer the question, or should we just go on? Yeah, good call. Yeah. Oh, it is done. I beg my lord to pluck the blank mustard plant and melon flower and not reject them for their hidden roots. That was actually in a poem we just read. So let's do this one for our memory recall, and then we'll find another one. So what was the adjective here? That's what I say. The trifling mustard plant and melon flower. When shall I blank the favor of rest? Speaking of rest, I will do this until... Oh! Got another 15 minutes into me. Yeah, Ray Ray. Love it. Guzhen. Welcome. Okay, what tired you out, I ask? This is longish. Oh, this is from the Book of Odes. Yes. The infamous Shi Ching, my namesake. I might have to really riff on this one. How the cloudy river glitters, shining, revolving in the sky. The king spoke. Alas, alas, what crime have the men of today committed that heaven sends down upon them confusion and death? The grain does not sprout, the green harvests wither. Again and again this happens. There is no spirit to whom I have not rendered homage. No sacrifice I have withheld for love. My stone scepters and round badges of rank have come to an end. Why have I not been heard? Already, the drought is terrible beyond expression. I cannot evade responsibility for it. I am afraid. Afraid. I feel in peril. I feel in peril. As when one hears the clap of thunder and the roll of thunder. Of the remnant of the black-haired people of Joe, there will not be left so much as half a man. Ruler over high, wide heavens, ever I shall not be spared. Why should I not be terrified, since the ancestral sacrifices will be ended? Already the drought is terrible beyond expression. The consequences of it cannot be prevented. I think you're right. Scorching, scorching, blazing, blazing. No living place is left for me. This doesn't really sound like a jig. No living place is left to me. The great decree of fate is near its end. There is none to look up to, none whose counsel I might ask. The many great officials, the upright men of ancient days, cannot advise me in regard to these consequences. My father, my mother, my remote ancestors, how can you endure this which has befallen me? Already the drought is terrible beyond expression. Parched and scoured the hills, the streams. Drought, the demon of drought, has caused these ravages, like a burning fire which consumes everything. My heart is shriveled with the heat. Sorrow rises from the heart as smoke from fire. The many great officials, the upright men of ancient days, do not listen to me. Ruler of the high, wide heavens, permit that I retire to obscurity. Already the drought is terrible beyond expression. I strive and force myself in vain. I dread that which will come. How, why should I bear this madness of drought? I suffer not to know the reason for it. I offered the yearly sacrifices for full crops in good time. I neglected not one of the spirits of the four quarters of the earth. The ruler of the high, wide heavens does not consider me. I have worshipped and reverenced the bright gods. They should not be dissatisfied or angry with me. Already the drought is terrible beyond expression. Everything is in confusion. All authority is gone. My officials are reduced to extremity. My chief minister is afflicted with a continuing illness. My master of the horse, my commander of the guards, my steward, my attendants of the right and of the left, not one among them has failed to try and help the people. Not one has given up because powerless. I raise my head and look at the ruler of the wide, bright heavens. I cry, why must I suffer such grief? I look upwards. I gaze at the wide, bright heavens. There are little stars twinkling, even those stars. My officers and the great men of my country, you have wrought sincerely and without gain. The great decree is near its end. Do not abandon what you have partly accomplished. Your prayers are not for me alone, but to guard the people and those who watch over them from calamity. I look upwards. I gaze at the wide, bright heavens. When shall I receive the favor of rest? So the drought tired him out. You know, that translation is remarkably inferior to Ezra Pound's translation of that, which I recall is one of the most riveting plaints at heaven. So much so that I'm actually gonna pull it up and look at the difference. Yeah, so you may not know the backstory behind this. It's kind of interesting. So Ezra Pound, after he was captured in fascist Italy at the conclusion of World War II, because he was giving pro-fascist radio broadcasts, he was ultimately imprisoned on the East Coast, and while he was in prison, he collaborated with a Chinese scholar at Harvard, and he translated the Book of Songs, which is what the PDF is. So let me locate the drought song, and yeah, wow. This is 1,000 times better than what we just read. But judge for yourself. I will read the same song translated by Ezra Pound. The milky dragon twists bright across heaven, and the king says, "What wrong has been done in this time, that the rain comes not, neither is promised, but sorrow, confusion, famine. Again, yet again, neither do the spirits of air sustain us, though I have prayed to them all, grudging no victim. The scepter and pierced jade lie here lifeless. Aude me, Domine. Assuage, oh, assuage. The great drought is here as parching, quilted with locusts and swollen. There is no sacrifice I have not offered, neither have I neglected the bournes nor their altars. Above, below, I have offered up offering, and I have buried. There is no power I have not honored. The Lord sea does not uphold us, nor the power of heaven approach us. Waste, devast the earth. Would that it fell upon me, on my person only. For the great drought I offer no self-exculpation. I quake as under the thunder. that there is no whole man left in Joe. God over heaven, neither that I survive. Why will none join me in reverence that the spirit of the ancestral cartouche, the founder, the cult, come not to end? The great drought, none can withstay it. It is impetuous fire against which I have no recourse. The great destiny, O source of my founders, carnal and uterine, how can you bear this in quiet? Great the drought, the high hills are parched and their rivers withered away. Without and within the fire demons consume us. My heart is made barren with the sorrow of burning. The pastoral dukes of aforetime will not hear us, neither will the bright God over heaven permit me to lay down my charge. The drought has parched into the depth. I struggle, I labor, and dare not retire. Why comes this affliction upon us, mad with the heat? We know not the reason. We prayed early that there be harvest. We have neglected no bourne of the square. O light that is high over welkin, that is not what we expected. By my reverence for the bright spirits of air, they ought not to hate me. I have had awe for the intelligence of the spirits, for the light in the air circumvolvent. They should not hold me under their anger. The drought has parched deep into the earth. The people are dispersed, leaving no records. The local governments are fallen to pieces. The prime minister, the head of the horse guards, the head of the commissariat have broken down. The great officers have done their utmost. No one has funked. I look up to heaven saying, where is the born? I look up with awe to heaven. The stars are like broom stars and bowls. The great officers and the princes shine as idly, giving no profit. The great decree comes near to its term. Do not cast off your precisions. Why seek in me the causes of local government troubles? I look up with awe to heaven. How should it grant me rest? The first line of that is one of my favorite lines I've ever read. I know, isn't that just unbelievably better? This Ezra Pound's translation of the Book of Songs, in my judgment, is the best poetry that was ever written. At least certainly in English. It's the best poetry ever written in English. And one of the primary reasons is that it's a translation of these ancient songs, and thereby it can draw on the pathos of the ancient Chinese power. And he was able to do it so well because he had such a contrarian point of view. So throughout it has that little like funk, known as funked. Like embedded in that is a really actually quite contemporary rejection of the contemporary order. That makes him distinct from, say, Amy Lowell, who is the person who actually translated that also with a Chinese Harvard scholar, but she was the daughter of the Harvard president, whereas Ezra Pound was giving radio broadcasts against FDR in the United States from fascist Italy. But yeah, that line. The milky dragon twists bright across heaven. Compare that with, how does she translate the first line? How the cloudy river glitters, shining, revolving in the sky. Yeah, isn't that... Compare those two. The king spoke, alas, alas. And the king says, what wrong has been done in this time? Let's look at this a second. What crime have the men of today committed that heaven sends down upon them confusion and death? Yeah, I really like his Aude me Domine. Assuage. Oh, assuage. That's really, really very beautiful. Yeah, why have I not been heard? Aude me Domine. Yeah, wow. Yeah, this book of songs is gorgeous. So on that note, I will wish everyone a good evening. I much more enjoy my existence when I don't languish into late into the night, beyond when I should. But Spaceman, it's been a joy, man. Yeah, please do come back. And we'll look through some other stuff. I mean, I was just doing Chinese poetry from this one book I randomly was looking at, but normally what I do is I have, in fact, I can show it to you here. So, yeah, cool. Yeah, normally I'm working with this as the corpus. And it randomly selects a sentence from any one of these texts. And then we pursue the same way. Yeah, thanks a lot. I don't know. It's a work in progress. I was inspired to do something similar to that after taking a class on Finnegan's Wake in college many years ago. And I'm trying to like work it out as a method here, and today it worked like better than ever. It was really actually quite nice and worked very cleanly with the Chinese poetry. It can get really involved when you do it with stories and other things, but having the text nice and short made it nice and clean. So I appreciate you joining me. I think we're both 1 for 1 in getting one actually correct, so maybe we can break the tie next time. Yeah, totally. All right, well, good night, my friend, and remember, don't not pick the trifling melon leaf.